Alert. An unknown entity has caused the disappearance of 2 squads within 20 seconds of each other. All signs of life were terminated. Pulling teams from redacted bases number 5, 13, and 16. The coordinates are redacted. Every resource under the classification of level 5 can be deployed. Code, Endbringer. Objective, destroy the entity. There are things lurking in the forest and in the shadows, but more often than not, those things are out and about, interacting with thousands of people. In this world, even before mankind, there have been oddities, freaks, entities, things that never made much sense. Sometimes we call them super beings, other times they are monsters. We can see them in books or on the screen, and can often lay in bed with the knowledge that the things that bump in the night aren't a monster. Sometimes we call them super beings, other times they are monsters. We can see them in books or on the screen, and often lay in bed with the acknowledgement that the things that bump at night aren't a monster. But not everyone is as fortunate. There is a kernel of truth in every story. There are thousands upon thousands of things out there that can't be explained. Even with every piece of technology we have, there is something unexplainable. The Redacted organization seeks to find those things that really do wander the streets and go bump in the night. Whether it's to capture, kill, or contain, there is only one objective. General scrambled to the helicopter, the company body armor already shifting colors to match the empty farmland. Hoisting his gun, General peered around. There were already 2 helicopters touched down, with another 2 in the sky. Teams were already spilled out of the helicopters, each team with their respective pins. Already General could see familiar faces. Behind General, the entirety of the base's agents stood behind him. Even Agent Misery, that old man crawling out of retirement to join the hunt. Old colleagues that General hadn't seen in years had been deployed on the field. And it stressed General out. Having been assigned one of the co-leaders, the amount of talent on this field alone was astonishing. And the fact that the organization pushed 3 teams to come on the field was even more spine-tingling. Endbringer. What kind of eldritch horror was this? Coming toward him was a light-skinned, dark-haired woman, her eyes dark pits. Agent Shatterbite was followed by 2 others whom General could not place. Behind her came Agent Grimm. His hard green eyes were ever defined by his dark green cloak, with antler pins at its center. In the distance, General could see his old friend. Even before the helicopter touched down, Agent Mercury was already moving towards the group, their short pink hair contrasting the standard gray armor. The meeting was held in the center of the clearing, the other leaders walking in to report or discuss. All around him, teams unloaded equipment from the helicopters. "Are we sure we have enough distance from it?" an unknown agent said. Silent nods came from all around. More disappointed than usual he didn't get hands on a visual, Grimm said. He points towards the place where the teams vanished. "I hate to say it, but my team isn't situated to handle the Endbringer." His insignia only seemed to glow brighter. "Assassin," somebody hissed. General only nods his head. It is what it is. General speaks next. "I do think we should vote on whether we utilize the other entities." A couple of grumbles come from all around. "Why waste our resources?" he continues. Shatterbright raises her hand. The use of entities were complicated within the organization, even more so among the leaders. Shatterbright starts to speak. "I think the deployment of the entity should fall upon the decision of the base leaders. Use them if we want, or don't." To this, no one argued. However, just as General was opening his mouth, Shatterbright continues. "We should decide if we're deploying the Seeker." With that, the amount of shouting that ensued was probably what was expected. Seeker, if General remembered correctly, belonged to an upper tier of the Endbringer category itself. It was an anomaly among entities, and for some reason aligned with the organization. Godlike was the only description that came to his mind. General shuddered. Even his old bones seemed to be shaken by it. Mercury unloads a gunshot into the air and silently descends down upon the surrounding area. Hell nah, she starts. We ain't doing that. What are you, a civilian? A harsh laugh rolls off her. We do it the redacted way. Guns blazing. Fedora looked at the blood-soaked forest floor. The stench of iron reeked. Behind him, Agent Jokes and Agent Howe were looking for traces for anything that happened beforehand. To the side, Agent Gel and her crew was already combing the area and were ahead. The sky was suspiciously clear for a day like this. Fedora stepped nervously towards a blood splatter. Jokes shouted out that they couldn't find anything, and a moment later, it was repeated by Howell. There simply was no tracks. There was no sign of conflict. Fedora swears. This is complicated, he said. With nothing, we can't even determine what we're up against. Jokes' pale face looks up at him. This can't be it, can it? Fedora shrugs. With something of this scale, anything could occur. Howell growls something under her breath, complaining about something. Could be something about her first mission. Something comes over the walkie-talkie. As Fedora listens in, it seems like the worst has happened. A team of 3 has vanished. General rushes to the scene. Already there were several other leaders, including Agent Mercury. The scene that awaited General was much like the other sites. Blood was dripping down the leaves and branches of the trees around them. Deep down, General knew that this confirmed his suspicion. This had to be something that could erase a team within a second, maybe even microseconds, General feared. Mercury walks towards General. Could it be, General started before they met up, that they were simply slaughtered without any time to react? Mercury looks at him. We have no way of knowing, General. However, it is confusing that there are several other teams in the area before they vanished. Could there be some sort of selection going on? Everything else was cut short by the roar that came from nearby. Even before the roar had finished, they were already running. And there it stood, a towering entity. It wasn't anything human-like. It looked like a ceramic ball with 4 spider legs. What was unusual was that there were glyphs that seemed to travel across the body. As the team surrounded the entity, it simply stood there. Agent Gel watched it with shock. It was something to hear about a creature that was classified as an Endbringer, another to see it. Immediately, her team started to unload onto the beast. Several other teams did as well. There was even a rocket launcher deployed. All while this was happening, the entity never moved. Agent Jokes stood to the side and was amazed. It was simply a sight to behold. Even as he was firing, you couldn't help but notice that the creature was crafted so spectacularly. That's when the first glyphs started to light up. A couple seconds later, lightning streaked from the body and targeted several groups, the electricity sparking and flashing throughout the bodies. Several people fell, their bodies burned crisp to a black. And that's when it became obvious. The glyphs were able to cause. The glyphs had specific effects. Another set of glyphs lighted up, and a roar emerged. Almost tauntingly. All while the entity simply stood there, never moving. Agent Howe was pissed. She never wanted to be on this field, she never wanted to fight this thing, and here it was, throwing electricity around like a toddler, like it had any right to interrupt what her objective was. As Agent Howe was looking around, with a shout and a cry, somebody near her fell. It was another agent from a different base, her face having half melted in. There's something in the sky now, seemingly like a mist produced by the beast. The entity was getting agitated, but interestingly, it had never moved from the spot. Well, it had never moved. Until the pink-hair agent that Agent General was talking to pulled out a purple box. Upon sensing the purple box's appearance, the entity started to move forward, slashing its arms forward. Every time an arm got within a couple feet of a person, the person exploded into a bloody pulp. Blood and guts flying everywhere. It was shocking to notice that such disaster had happened in such a small time. Other agents immediately started cowering and running for cover. This was terrible. Agent General moved forward, his eyes looking up at the beast. There seemed to be a little chip, a little diamond-like indent near the side of the beast. Agent General turns towards Agent Mercury. It's time we fired the device. Nodding and understanding, Agent Mercury turns and loads the purple object into her gun. This was terrifying, Agent General knew. It was one thing to fight an eldritch horror. It was another thing to use another entity's device to destroy another entity. It was interesting. The purple box had been crafted by the Seeker itself. Unsure why or unsure how it was made, the organization had accepted it and had saved it for the instances where another Endbringer would come. Just as the Seeker had said on the files, this was the entity that was going to appear, though it didn't know where. And here it was. As Agent Mercury had it locked and ready to go, one leg struck out. Nobody had the time to react. Agent Mercury splatters her organs and blood covering the nearby area. Her gun fell to the floor. The entity was still moving forward, obviously attempting to destroy what was inside the gun. Sensing that he had to do it, Agent General picks up the gun, points it at the indent, and fires. Agent Fedora saw it all. He had saw Mercury go down, and most importantly, he saw Agent General fire the gun. But he wasn't close enough or was able to save General when a leg struck down and vaporized him. Agent General had been his friend, had been his tutor during his time in the organization, and just like that, he was gone. As Agent Fedora slumped down onto the floor, the purple box obviously did what it was supposed to, having been fired from the gun. It seemingly smashed into the entity and broke it. A couple of minutes later, surrounded by all those who survived, the chunks of the entity had fallen to the floor, bits and pieces covered across the farm grass. Fedora heard Agent Jokes and Agent Howl laughing. Several other teams were laughing as well, the stress having gone into everyone. But it had come at a cost. Agent General is down, Agent Mercury was down. Who would be there to lead the base? Report. The entity has now been classified as Gyro. The entity was known for its glyphs that would light up on its body and fire. Note, the Seeker's box, having been crafted by Seeker, had worked. It is now considered something that can take down Endbringer entities. This box should be tested with other entities. Should the organization not be able to contain entities, the organization should seek to remove the entities using this device. Note, several casualties happened on the field, including several leaders. Note, sending replacement leader towards base number 6 and base number 13. At this time, placing entity Gyro as entity number 006. Entity Gyro is classified as deceased. This file is subject to further edits.